Now we were talking about BJ and how he was adding a good atmosphere to the soldiers in the army, and he was a good helper and a good partner for them. But let's see now how he became Pig's dog. And she's in America, and they found this dog in Germany. Before we go on, let's here find some facts and opinions in the story. For example, here I began my writing career at the age of 10. This is fact. It's a real information. We can't change it, okay? While here, although his life at that time was as uneventful as the lives of the other neighborhood dogs, BJ had a unique background. This is an opinion. It shows the writer's opinion, her thoughts, what she thinks about her dog BJ. So it's an opinion because what she thinks about BJ maybe or for sure it's different than what others think about it. So it's an opinion. While here, Uncle Bill, my mother's younger brother, was a soldier in the American Army or in the US Army during World War II. This is a fact. This is a real information, okay? We can't change it. And here, the mother dog was dead. So were all the puppies except one. This is also fact. Okay, it's real information. We can't change it. While here, he, which means BJ, offered love and laughter to a group of lonely, weary men who were far from home. This is an opinion. It shows the writer's opinion about BJ, that he added love and laughter to the soldiers, and her opinion about the soldiers, that they are lonely and weary and tired. So this is an opinion. Now let's continue reading to see what will happen with the soldiers and BJ. When the war ended, the soldiers rejoiced. What's the meaning of rejoice? It means they get excited. They are happy because the war ended. Because, of course, war is not something nice, it's horrible. Soon they would be going home to their loved ones. Finally, they are going to their families. But what about BJ? They knew they could not leave him in Germany. The German people were faced with the task of rebuilding their cities and their lives. No one wanted to bother with a dog, especially a dog who belonged to the Americans. Now, the American soldiers, were thinking about BJ, as we said, that he became a very important part of the army. Now they want to go home back. They want to go back home to America, and they will leave Germany. They were thinking about BJ. What is going to happen with him? We can't leave him for the German people because they are busy to rebuild their damaged and their destroyed cities after war, and they are not free. They are not able, or they don't want to bother themselves to take care of a dog, especially if this dog belongs to the Americans. They have other tasks to do. So the men, which means the soldiers, decided to chip in enough money to fly BJ back to the United States. So they decided, what's the meaning of to chip enough money? Which means to collect money from each one to pay for something together. For example, each one will pay a little bit money, and the whole money together, they will pay it for something. So they decided to send BJ to America, and they want to pick money for his ticket. Okay, so they chip money for this. Then they had a drawing. What's the meaning of the word drawing here? It does not mean painting or drawing a picture or something. No, they made a toss, which means that here, to see who got to keep him. Now, which soldier will take BJ? Which soldier will take care of BJ and become his dog? They made the drawing. What is drawing? Each soldier wrote his name on a slip of paper and put the paper in a helmet. The winning name was drawn Bill Showers, my uncle. This is the drawing. They got papers like this, and they wrote their names on the small papers, and they folded. Okay, they put the papers in a helmet or in something. Then they have to pick one paper. This is called drawing. Now, this paper had what? Uncle Bill's name. So, according to the drawing, this is to be fair, okay? So, this is the way to choose which soldier who will take BJ for him and to be his dog. Okay, so this is the drawing, they made it. So Uncle BJ was the winner and he will take care BJ to take care of him. Uncle Bill lived with my family. Who's my? Of course, Pig, our writer. So BJ was flown from Germany to Minneapolis. Minneapolis, it's a place in America, where my parents picked him up at the airport and drove him to our home in Austin, Minnesota. Okay, now BJ traveled, flew from German to America, and Pig's parents went to the airport to pick him and to bring him to their house to live with them, as well as Uncle Bill, who was living with them too. Okay, now BJ is in America with Pig. I was 9 years old and delighted by the addition of this wire haired schnoozer. At least we thought he might be a schnoozer. A schnoozer, it's a kind of dog, this kind of dog that has this look. This is called schnoozer, okay? Now, she was so happy. She was so delighted, happy, because this special creature now is added to their household, to our household. He became part of their family. Okay, and that time she was 9 years old when BJ came to their house, and we said here in the beginning that she started her writing career at age of 10, which means 1 year later. Now, according to Uncle Bill, BJ understood many commands, which means many orders, in both English and German languages. So BJ understood English and German. Since none of us spoke German, we had no way to prove this claim, which means this information. Now, Uncle Bill said that BJ can understand you if you talk to him in English or in German. But since Pig and her parents can't speak German, so they can't prove this information. But at least they proved that when they talk to BJ in English, he can understand them, okay? Now, BJ quickly became my dog. Although BJ was overjoyed when my uncle arrived home after his discharge, Uncle Bill did not stay in Austin long. He got married and headed to the University of Minnesota, where dogs were not allowed in student housing. BJ stayed with my family. Now, BJ became her dog very quickly because Uncle Bill, when he came to America, he after that got married and he went to another city to study in the university, and in the university's student housing, which means the place where the students live inside the university, dogs are not allowed. So that's why Uncle Bill couldn't take BJ with him. So BJ stayed with Peg and they became very close friends, BJ and Peg. And BJ was overjoyed, so happy. He showed he was cheerful when he saw Uncle Bill, because there's a good relationship between Uncle Bill and BJ. But even though BJ had to stay with them at home, so that's why BJ stayed with them in the house. I showered him with loving attention. I brushed him, tied ribbons on his collar, took him for walks, and read aloud to him. BJ seemed especially fond of the Raggedy Ann and Andy stories, which were favorites of mine as well. So, she started taking care of him. Who is I? I refers to our writer, our main character, Peg. She took care of BJ in a very good way. Even she was reading for him stories, the same stories that they were her favorite. Okay. Now, before we go on, let's see here main idea and details. One of the skills that we talked about before. Let's say, for example, here in the second paragraph, what is the main idea and details? The main idea, as we said, it's the main point in the story. Like, for example, here, the men decided to chip in enough money to fly BJ back to the United States. This is main idea, the main point in the sentence. Now, the details are the extra information that support this main idea. We may have one, two, three, or more details, supporting details. Now, here, what are the details for this main idea? Then they had a drawing to see who got to keep him. This is the first detail. This is detail number one. Each soldier wrote his name on a slip of paper and put the paper in a helmet. This is detail number two. Detail number two. The winning name was drawn Bill Showers, my uncle. This is, let's say, detail three. Okay, detail three. So I have here three details to support this main idea in this paragraph. Of course, each paragraph has its own main idea and details. This is just an example. Okay, now let's continue to see what will happen with BJ here. Now, BJ had lived with us for a year when I launched the dog newspaper, when I started my newspaper. He was a fascinating front page subject, amazing picture on the front page in her newspaper, and the first edition of the dog newspaper sold 12 copies. Now, she wrote her first issue, her first newspaper, about BJ's background and BJ's life when he was in German and so on. Her first newspaper was amazing. She sold 12 copies, okay, from the newspaper. And as we said here before, that she sold 5 cents a copy for each copy, which means she got 60 cents, which means she got 60 cents. Okay, now the first edition, the first copy of the newspaper was amazing, and she succeeded a lot. Even though my lead story, my first story, required little search, yet she needed information, this 60 cents was not easy money, which means not easy to get this money. It needed from her a lot of work. Let's see why. All those interviews about the neighborhood dogs took time. Also, I grew up before there were copy machines. There were no copy machines. So how she did make these 12 copies? So I couldn't just go to the local copy center and run off 12 copies of the paper using a pencil. I wrote every word 12 times. Then I delivered my newspapers and collected my pay, my money. So this work, writing a newspaper, needed her to make a lot of work. Not only getting money, no, she needed to write each copy by herself. She needed to write to copy each copy by herself because there was no copy machine, and she needed to deliver the copies by herself and collect money, besides the search and the interviews that she did with the neighbors. So all of this needed a lot of work. Okay, BJ and I became famous on our block in their neighborhood. Neighbors were enthralled by the story. They were amazed by the story. And I gobbled up congratulations on my writing the way BJ ate his dinner, which means she got the congratulations from the neighbors and from everybody as if she is devouring them, eating them like BJ when he is eating his dinner. All of my customers agreed to purchase the next issue of the dog newspaper. All her customers who bought the first newspaper encouraged her to write another copy, and they were excited to buy her next issue also about the dog newspaper. So she got excited to write another copy. That's why giddy with success, because again, the first issue got successful. Everyone loved it and everyone bought it and read it and so on. So she was crazy about success. I immediately began writing the second issue, the second copy, or the second version, or the second edition of the dog newspaper. The neighborhood dogs were still every bit as boring as they had been a week earlier, so I decided to repeat my winning formula and use BJ as the main article again. So again, the dogs in the neighborhood are boring, so she decided also to write about BJ because he was the formula. He was the rule to let her win and succeed in the first issue. Since I had already told the only unusual thing about my dog, this time I wrote a story called BJ's Gingerbread House. So, she will not repeat, of course, the same stories about BJ in all newspapers. Now she decided to write something new about BJ. She will not repeat her first story, so she decided to write about BJ's gingerbread house. She will make a new story about him to let her customers and everyone to feel excited about her newspaper as the first one. Now, you see this illustration, it shows the how much of love and close relationship between these two friends. Okay, now let's see what will happen with Peg when she wrote her second newspaper, and does it get this this success as the first issue or not. Okay, we will see.